And here we are. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome back to Heart and Soul Connected. And I'm thrilled to have my friend Rick Cempie here with me today, Reverend Rick Cempie, and who I've known for more time than one could even imagine, but not we haven't never met face to face except through the computer. So
However, the soul to soul contact
soul to soul, we've
through the
known each other.
way we did it,
Yep,
that
it's
was a
true.
highly elevated use of the internet.
Highly elevated. Absolutely. Yes, it was. So I'm just going to give a little bit of the background. There was a fellow named Brian, and he started this community, spiritual community. This was before, it was around the time Facebook started, but it isn't really, it was a spiritual community. And actually, how I even found it was I picked up a Tricycle magazine, which is a Buddhist magazine, when I was in Trader Joe's, and he had an advertisement in there. And I think he did in other venues as well. So we joined this, and Keith joined it as well. We joined this community called Zods. Zods is a Dutch word for seeds. He wanted us to plant seeds all over. And I picked the name Enlightened Thinker with a dot in between enlightened and thinker. And it wasn't that I thought I was enlightened. It was that I was mostly a person with an open mind. And that's why I picked that name. I don't think, you had just had your name, didn't you, Rick?
I actually
No.
did have a name,
Oh,
Soul Friend.
that's right. You were Soul Friend.
It
Yes.
comes from the Celtic
Yes, Anam
tradition.
Cara. Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes, yes. Yep. And Keith was gentle soul. That was who he was. Yeah. And this, we didn't really say our names, but then we got to know our names. And
Yes.
yeah, and then it got bought out by Gaia, and Gaia had it for a while, and then they just what's really cool though, Rick? You can go back on the internet Wayback Machine. Have you ever seen that?
Only briefly, and I keep losing the information.
Oh,
Sammy has helped me with that,
Sammy has it. Yes, he does.
but
Yes.
I need
Yeah.
to go. And I'm very grateful that he's gotten into such a delightful space of interacting more.
Yes, because
It's
he's not
been a
working
long
anymore. He's
road
retired.
for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This guy was a fabulous. Well, there were so many of them that were just fabulous networkers and always were there for us. But there is a thing called the Internet Wayback Machine. It reminds me of Peabody and Sherman because they had one, Mr. Peabody. And anyway, you can go back and look at your posts that you had in the threads. They had comments and everything. And it was just fabulous that I got to meet all these people. And then I met them a lot of them in real time. I've met Winnie. I've met Peggy. I've met Carla, Rick. There's another guy named Rick, and a
Yes.
couple other people that were out here we met in Florence, Oregon back in
Okay.
2008. Yeah. And yeah, just fabulous. Well, anyway, once we
I
went on
actually
to,
met a few of the ones
did
that
you?
I encountered.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
I was privy to the information ahead of time regarding the White Buffalo Messengers powwow, international intertribal powwow, and,
Okay.
and that was in 2008. And I invited. I started close to tri-state area, then expanded to Eastern Seaboard, and then went further west, giving
Oh,
people time. And there were
yeah,
multiple people that came, and
really.
Zods was my go-to.
Sure, sure. Well, it was the only thing of its kind at the time. And even when I've talked to people about how long they've had their YouTube channels, in 2015, no people got blown out of here by trolls. They really did. And it's really different now than and I only joined in 2020, but wow, that's fabulous to know, Rick. I'm happy to hear that. Um, but when Zods went away, we tried to rally
Yes,
around Pam Singh, and Sherry
with
Collymore was on
I
there. And
believe the site was something. It was some sort of a Ning,
yes, we did
Ning.
Ning for a while. Yes, with Debbie. Yeah, she ran the Ning for a while. Then we
Okay.
came to Facebook. And, Rick's got a wonderful Facebook group called Kempie's Corner. And so anybody that's here that got that link and is watching from Cempie's Corner, welcome everybody. Want to say that first of
Yeah.
all. But yeah, and so when I saw your name on the list for the Voices for Democracy show, and Terry Renner is in the chat today. She's
Oh,
called Holding
wonderful.
Space. Yes.
Hey, Terry.
Yeah. Um, it was wonderful. And then I knew it was you. I could see your picture and I said, that's him, that's him. So yeah.
Yeah, just
So
a little whiter of the beard. And
well, we all get a little bit older, even though we may not want to do that. So
sure.
absolutely. Yeah. I'm just going to say hi to everybody here. Thank you for being here, everybody. Rick is a wealth of information and I have on here a title of Spiritual Nourishment with Reverend Rick Cempie, and it just he's a real cool guy. I mean, he works with the paranormal.
Yes.
He has his own lay ministry and works with people that need his help. He's a wonderful astrologer and has been into astrology since 1977. He loves Jungian archetypes and Jungian, the looking at our wounds, especially in astrology. He also loves to talk about intuition, mediumships, things like that. You do, and I think you do channeling as well, don't you? Do you do channeling?
When the spirit chooses to
Okay.
hit me, yeah.
When spirit says,
And I open
Hey,
up.
Rick.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
You do the tarot.
Yeah.
And you are very interested in helping in men's health issues, mental health,
Oh, yes.
health, all those things. Yeah.
Yeah. We need
And-
more of our
Yes.
guys to step forward and
Right.
start sharing things that we undervalue, because many of the practitioners who are men are more aware of their own emotions, and that is where guys have been handicapped by our culture.
You're right. Yeah.
It's not that they're incapable, they're
Right.
simply overlooked.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I remember my husband saying a number of years ago, who holds a man when he cries? And of course, I believe he and I are pretty well balanced because I have a lot of male energy and he has a lot of female. So we really do. But he felt for the longest time, being a product of the 50s and 60s and 70s, that it wasn't masculine, of course, because that's what society told us. And it's not true at all. And we have to break down that paradigm. And of course, we're doing that with the introduction of recently the divine feminine with Aquarius, us moving into the Aquarian age. So
there have been a lot of shifts. I think even the Pluto entry into Capricorn was breaking down old stereotypes.
Yeah.
At the same time, exposing the flaws of institutions like the housing market and the banking system, because it coincided with the crashes and the exposure of how things had been neglected and never should have happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But then with Aquarius, after we've cleared the rubble, that Capricorn gave us a tower experience. Now we can then enter into something that is going to be a guiding star.
Correct.
As we open our minds.
Open our minds to the evolution. So it's very interesting that when I was in high school, and that was when the fifth dimension came out with Aquarius and everything. And we were all singing that, and all of us were thrilled that it was the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Little did I know that we'd have to wait 50 something more years for it really to move in, even though it takes its time, and we've gotten used to it. It's been I wish it was then, but
I understand a lot of people wrestle with that idea of the dawning of the age, and when you recognize how long the age is, that it is about 2,600 years,
Yes.
That dawning, I think people should realize, if you're talking 2,600 years, if I'm wrong, it's 2,400, but
No,
tomato,
I think it's
tomato.
2,600. I think you're right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you're right. Hmm.
The thing that strikes me is if you were to try and imagine what a 24-hour day would be and stretch that into 2,600 years and think of the dark dawn, a dark before the dawn, you
Right.
hear the birds of the day
True.
early.
Hmm.
And that's what we are feeling in the dawning.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
They are
Yeah.
vibing with sound, and we are feeling the vibrations. It's going to be a time of
Hmm.
opening, adjusting, preparing,
Yeah.
transforming.
Transforming. So I recently read that birds only sing when they feel um, comfortable, or that they have to feel, what's the word I want to say? That they're not going to be attacked or hurt or anything. That they're completely at peace. And I never thought of it that way before. And I
Sounds
was
like
out.
safety, too.
It does. Yes, it does.
Right.
And I remember this summer hearing the birds much, much more than I had before. And I don't know if it was my awareness or if it was the fact that they are feeling something is shifting themselves. And of course, we know the animals can feel
Are much more
different.
aware than we are.
They are definitely. Yes.
And
Yes.
those of us who are close enough to the earth to watch the animals are more aware than those that are chained to the concrete jungle.
Very true. Very true.
I try to tell young people, you have no idea what it was like 45, 50 years ago to take a Sunday drive
Uh-huh.
and you actually did not always stop at a service station just for gas. You had to clean the bugs off your
You
windshield.
did. Oh, yes.
It was that smeary of the guts you
Right.
could not see.
True. Yeah.
It's nothing like
Nothing
that
like that.
today.
No, it
This
isn't.
is what Rachel Carson spoke of in the
Spring.
Silent Spring.
Yeah, very definitely. Remember, we even had those like mesh in front of the lights on the cars to get
Yeah,
rid of the bugs. I remember that too. Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I
And
know.
the things we hear in with the it is there is a silence,
Mhm.
and it is different.
It is very different.
Hmm.
I look back. It's very interesting that you say that because I poignantly look back at pictures of New York City. I didn't live in New York City, but we've seen pictures of them over time, and I keep looking at them and saying, really, is that really what I don't, I remember it, but I don't know. It's like it was a different lifetime ago for me. And
Hmm.
and I thought, well, it's because I'm older and da, da, da. But no, it's a different place. It's a different place. It's not the same.
It does go through a lot of changes.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. Absolutely. So yes, many bugs are on the extinction list, Mary says. Wow,
that is
that's
right.
probably true. Yeah, 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 absolutely. Well, we have a lot to talk about, and we could probably just talk. There's some people that want some readings, and we'll get to that if we can at the end. But I want you to know that Rick and I are hoping to do a series of shows
Yeah,
on special topics, and we really would love to know. Oh, thank you, Book, you're a sweetheart. We'd really love to know what you want to talk about. The only ask that we have is we're not going to talk about anything openly or currently divisive in our world. We're going to try to keep the vibe high
yeah,
and think about joy and happiness, and not sort of, because there's other places we can do the other thing. Okay, so that's why I put up spiritual nourishment. I thought that was a really, really good title
yeah.
for this. And yeah, so let's start by telling us all about when Rick found out that he was spiritual.
Oh, I didn't. I found out other people weren't.
I love
So
that. I love it.
It
Yeah.
was so early. it My earliest memory,
Hmm.
I mean, you can go ahead and superimpose ideas of memory by looking at old photos before you have memory.
Right.
I'm talking about remembering myself in the space, seeing the events.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
precedes my third birthday by about 10 to 12 weeks.
Wow. Okay. Oh, wow. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was around the weekend of May 19th, and my
Uh-huh.
birthday would have been August 6th, however long that is.
Hmm.
And my mother had been pregnant with my sister, who was then born in June.
Uh-huh.
And there was an issue with the tires, and the rain caused hydroplaning and a 180 into a ditch.
Oh,
And
wow.
because of the rain, there was a lot of steam and it looked foggy. And I
Hmm.
remember feeling the ethereal quality of it. And then
Wow.
I also had been expecting something large
Hmm.
because I had had a prophetic dream prior. But my prophetic dreams would have what I refer to as a trigger in the dream,
Okay.
where you get to something that you'll focus on visually that is a powerful awareness you cannot miss. And
Hmm.
then you'll realize, oh, something is going to happen, because
Uh-huh.
you realize this is what is the key to unlocking the memory of the dream.
Right.
In that particular one, it was, it feels like it was possibly one of the old wise potato chip bill, billboards that really wasn't a billboard, it was a standing owl. You
That's
know,
right. Yes, yes.
how fitting the owl would be there with me, you know?
Uh, yeah, yeah.
That wise
Uh-huh.
old owl.
That's
You
right.
know?
Oh my God. Yes.
And
Yeah.
in that moment where everything unfolded, I in, embraced this idea that, oh, we are forever changed, further aware,
Uh-huh.
and in whatever way, all three of us, my mother, my sister, and myself, identified some level internally, and I
Hmm.
didn't discuss it with them,
Right.
of healing and working with others. And my mother went on to get into nursing. My
Uh-huh.
sister did a variety of different things and eventually did advocacy for uh, senior citizens, it being
Oh, giving back. It's
yeah.
all giving back.
And
Yeah.
I have had uh, I've I've worked in a hospital, I've worked in nursing homes, I've done extra hours on a cancer ward, I've had cancer patients in my own ward,
Hmm. Hmm.
and interacting with the families and the people of on the process of dying has always come easy to me.
Hmm. Hmm.
And the space of sacredness has always been something that I find helpful to step in and facilitate, because frequently people are not familiar with the space
True.
and they
That's
don't
true.
know how to find the words.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I am ridiculously capable of with words,
Hmm.
sometimes too capable.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, I
Somebody
mean,
said I'm recently that it seems like I'm ridiculously analytical, and I think no, I think extraordinarily and skilled with analysis, so that
yeah,
I can take things apart and put them together the way they
put
were
them back
meant to be.
together and you explain it well. Yes. And, I don't think I've ever had anybody tell me that they had an experience that early. I can tell you my husband said he was about 6 months old because he was laying in a crib and he could see the little thing above his head.
Nobles,
Yeah. And his mother and father looking down upon him. And I said, my God, I can't. And my dad took movies all the time. I don't, so I don't know if for me, I don't know if it was me seeing the movie now or me,
Sure.
remembering what it was, but I
I
had
have run across people that have had memories of that time that you're discussing due to trauma.
oh, sure. Well, it was a traumatic thing that happened, actually. He had to have an operation on his penis, and
Oh my.
he was very terrified, even as a 6-month-old child. So, yes, it was
Well,
a traumatic
right. I
thing.
mean,
Yeah,
you're only 6 months into this world,
right.
and what I mean, surgery itself is just
Yeah.
phenomenally uncomfortable. I know
Yep.
that I had two early surgeries around 4.5, 5 years old.
Mhm.
One was a traditional TNA,
Mhm. Mhm.
tonsil and adenoids, and the other
Right.
was um, uh, where they uh, tympanectomy, tympanectomy and myringotomy, where they
Oh, really?
work. It's an ear surgery where they
Yes.
okay.
Uh-huh.
And the first one, they gave me the choice between gas and an injection.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, oh, I hate needles. Give me the gas.
Uh-huh.
Well, I found there was something worse than needles. The odor of that gas. I was like, the next time I go in, I'm going to go ahead and ask for the needle as much as I hate needles.
Right. Right.
They didn't ask me. They gassed me without asking.
Oh. Might have been in your show notes from the
Maybe.
previous one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Oh. Oh, so book, you have a great question. I'm going to put it up.
Great.
She said, my mom's best friend passed, and she came to me sitting on the railing. And when she was 2 years old, oh my God, that's so wonderful book. And so she's asking this wonderful question. And I love this because we do want this interaction with you guys. That's one of the
Yes,
things
please.
I kind of promised Rick that we would have. So if time allows, would you talk about how to make oneself feel spirit? I keep losing my joy or in my trust. So how do we find a way of feeling? I know it's probably faith, but I'm going to let you address
Oh, I
this, Rick.
think it's more than faith. I think
Okay.
there is a structure to your process that you have to develop
Okay.
because just as in training as a spiritualist, you make appointments for your development. I will
Uh-huh.
meet with spirit this day of the week, this time, and all you spirit folks meet me then. You want to develop routines. It does
Mhm.
not have to be something you're chained to, but you want to have some regularity and ritual that triggers it. So
Mhm.
I make a lot of times suggestions to people: locate your self an album and make copies of just the photos you really treasure of ancestors, which
Mhm.
are anybody who has passed. It does
Right.
not have to be a relative. It can be the family friend of your parents that was the spare aunt or uncle,
Sure.
or a godparent, and then find yourself a space that you really appreciate just to sit and relax and
Mhm.
decompress and speak to them. If there's
Mhm.
one in particular, grab it, make it 8 by 10 glossy, have it there if you feel this is a family guide.
Right.
And that's something that it is going to let you know they could show up.
Mhm.
It will let you know that they are aware you're paying attention.
Right.
And you very well may want to also begin a dream journal because this
Yeah.
could open up to having visitations in your sleep where your resistance is not the same.
Right.
And you will absolutely be more receptive when you're in the dream world.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
I have a dream show that I do on Tuesday nights, actually, with Terry Renner and a few other people. And in the very beginning, people were like, I can't remember any of my dreams. And
sure,
and you know what? They're all dreaming. They're all analyzing now. It's quite amazing. But there is something about it that you have to shift that perception that this is what you're hoping for, and this is
You
what we're
find nothing without looking for it.
right. Right. That's very true. That's very true. I
I
love that.
explain it to people so drastically different by saying, if any of you have ever gotten a recently new used car, the first time you get out of a shopping area with a huge parking lot,
You can't
you will
remember.
notice that you didn't see this many of that make and model in that color last week.
Yep.
But
Yep.
now they're everywhere.
Well, the same thing is with pregnant. When you're a pregnant woman, you see all these pregnant women. It's amazing. It's like, oh, they just gravitate to you. It's
Women
very
who
cool.
miscarry also see a lot of
I bet.
pregnant women.
I bet they do. I bet they do.
Sometimes who do, or mothers that aren't the best mothers.
Oh,
That's
really?
another one that the women who have lost children happen to notice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I remember when my mom passed, I was only 33 at the time, and I felt kind of gypped because all my friends had their mothers around. And when I would see them, women talking to their mothers in a nasty way, I would get so incensed. It's like, you be nice to her. She's still here. There was sort of that righteous indignation that I had at the time. But I think it takes you to wake up to realize a lot that you took for granted earlier. So
It's also a very blessed experience that you had to respond that way for your own relationship, because the reality is not every a woman that successfully brings a child into the world is able to deliver nurturing.
that's true. That's very true.
And so
Mhm.
many people are experiencing mama drama not because they looked for it.
Right. Right. That's very true. Although the sacred contracts that we make before we come, we usually pick our own parents and who we need for our own soul's growth. But that's sort of with the veil of forgetting. And so when you get down here, you don't even realize that's what you did.
I have an interesting theory about that because I cross pollinate my thinking with
I
different
know.
fields.
I love
And
it.
when you look at 12-step programs, they have this idea that making amends should be done as much as possible unless unable to cause more hurt. So
Hmm.
you would
Hmm.
refrain from trying to make yourself feel better at the victim's expense.
Oh,
So
okay.
that took me to a different space with the choosing parents.
Okay.
I believe that we're not always choosing our former abuser, yet we are finding people with idiosyncratic quirks that
Mhm.
will need to be worked on for themselves. That's their baggage. And
Right.
we have our baggage. And
Correct.
we are not the souls always that hurt one another, but we can irritate one another into growth.
That's true. That's very true. And there are those experiences, either irritated in a relationship or, what do they call them? Another growth opportunity. That those are the ones that we learn the most from. So yeah. Anyway, but
Warrior Girl, can you
yeah.
tell him, was what was it you had a feeling that was going to be said? I'm curious.
Oh, I think she asked Wiki, because Wiki said now she puts magnesium cream on
Oh,
herself
okay.
before she goes to sleep. And she said, where do you put it? And she puts it on her feet because I've talked about that. And she said she remembers her dreams more now that she has that on her feet. And so, yeah,
That's, yeah,
yeah.
the feet are very powerful conduits
Uh-huh.
from a
Yeah.
cellular perspective. I know
Yeah.
that people have put sliced garlic between the toes, covered them with socks to go ahead and get rid of a cold because
Yes,
it gets the uh, vital compounds into the bloodstream more effectively.
that's right. The same with not Vaseline, a Vicks Vapor Rub, they said.
Okay,
Put that on your feet too. Apparently it helps you breathe better. Who knew?
right. Well,
Yeah.
it is our connection to the earth.
It is our connection to the earth. Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
So anybody have anything that they want to say or want us to talk about, put it in the chat. But I want Rick to talk a little bit about how his development of his astrological gifts have led him to find interesting and new developments, especially asteroids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I early on had the blessing of a parent that would read stories,
Hmm. Hmm.
and fables and fairy tales and myths were the beginning of, you know,
Yeah.
so much more than Goodnight Moon, right?
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
and I continued to go ahead and carry that tradition with my children. And
I
the
love it.
thing that I went to independently, first I very quickly read. I read very early, and I started going from the simpler books. As by the time I was 11 or 12, I was cracking open Greek mythology
Oh,
because
uh,
I found a wonderfully scaled, child appropriate level in Dolaire's Greek myths. It's
mhm.
a French author, and I think he did that in conjunction with his wife. One of them was the writer, the other was the artist.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
I was very thrilled to see that one portion of the cover, they had this large 2-page spread that, because it's a coffee table book.
Okay. Yep.
And so
Yep.
when you go ahead and have both sides, then they had the family tree
Oh,
of the
okay.
Greek pantheon.
Uh-huh.
So you could go through reading, and then you can go back to the tree and make sure you're keeping track. And
Uh-huh.
each story develops so well, you get to know the individual and those supporting characters. And
Mhm.
then eventually you're connecting all these players, and it's almost like experiencing your own family tree. Well, how
Sure.
are we related to so and so? You know?
Yes, I know. Yeah.
And
How they
it,
influenced each other as
sure,
parts of that family. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. And,
Uh-huh.
you know, looking at families in
Mhm.
astrology and amongst the asteroids, because there are only so many planets, but there are multitudes of asteroids.
Mhm.
That's where you start to see little dynamics.
Right.
So when you find something triggered, if there are other family members of that circuit, you want to check and see, plug them in, and see what you can find.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
and that led me, once I had the archetypal understanding,
Mhm.
and then, oh, I had so much fun with the math back then. I would actually have
Great.
intuitions while doing the math
Wow.
because I
Well,
was
it's a
just
universal
harmonized.
language. Math
Yeah,
is a universal language. Yeah.
right.
Love is too, but yeah.
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 And I just would
Wow.
look at things and find in the chart amazing connections. I would get, I got a lot of intuition about things beyond what we refer to as the Ptolemaic aspects,
Uh-huh.
things that are more esoteric.
Sure.
And I had, oh my goodness, back in those early days, you couldn't find more than one bookcase in a national
Right.
chain.
Mhm.
And I was blessed
That's
enough
right.
that my godmother passed me materials
Oh.
so that I could get started, that she
Mhm.
had and used, and
Wow.
introduced me to the only shop in Western PA at all that had anything and everything,
Right.
including a tablet of blank horoscope charts that you could then
Fill in. Yeah.
pinpoint the right place
Sure.
and make your own house lines.
Sure.
That way
Wow.
it was accurate. You didn't
Yeah.
have to stick with a whole sign house.
Right. Uh-huh.
and it was the sign of Aquarius was the name of the shop.
Oh, really? Oh, I
Yeah,
love that. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Cool.
It was in an off street. I'm sure to be cheaper
Hmm.
of a very well-to-do shopping area in
Hmm.
one of the 90 centrally located 90 different boroughs of Pittsburgh.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yep.
fun stuff. A
Hmm.
lot of great leads because she was an astrologer who owned the bookstore. And
Uh-huh.
so she brought in stuff that would be there for the people that wanted to go deep.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. That is so cool. And I agree with you because I've said that many times. When I was interested in metaphysics, I was in high school, and I'd go to the regular bookstore and there's never anything at all. Maybe you got the little astrology books they used to make. Dell used to make them for
Dell,
the year. Yes,
I think
Dell.
they may have started around 29 cents in the earliest.
Probably, yeah, or 49. Who knows? You
Yeah.
know, yeah, yeah. But you got that, and it was just real generic. And
Hmm.
you don't, of course, get your rising sign or your moon or any of the other things. But it was a way in, and
Right.
then that's when what's your sign became a real interesting way of meeting somebody.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There you
Oh,
go.
Sydney Omar. That was certainly a wonderful one. Yes.
This nice lady who works with me in various capacities is also an astrologer, and I was saying you gotta talk to him at some point because I know the two of you will have a ball. So
Would that be oil
oil
painter?
painter, oil painter. Her name's Diana. Yeah, yep.
Feel
And
free to look me up, oil painter.
yeah, yeah, and yeah. As a matter of fact, Rick has what's a space on Facebook called Cempie's Corner. And so if you put that in, and you can, he'll put up stuff that he's doing and whatever
I have
on.
to say I'm really not happy ever since Meta came along because I used to have a more diverse and uh, used to be beyond metaphysical
Oh,
to more of the occult
mm-hmm,
knowledge,
mm-hmm.
but it's so hard to find some of that now.
Yeah,
Uh, I
yeah,
I don't understand the metrics of algorithms. I
yeah.
understand ancient stars better than computers.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, and of course now they're just they're making decisions about what we say and do, and they're judging us more than they used to in the past. And
Right.
some of that was needed, but
Yeah.
not to the extent and that's another reason why I don't really go there very often. I use Instagram because I like pictures, but I've really found my home here, and I
Sure.
love that I have it. I really love that I have it, and anyway, but not everybody, I know some people are on TikTok and some people are on other forums, and everybody's going to go where they feel most comfortable. But yeah, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about spiritual nourishment while we're here today.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, let's talk about that.
Anamkara.
Hmm.
That is what led me towards spiritual direction.
Hmm.
And when I dove deeper into spiritual direction in general, not just the Celtic tradition,
Uh-huh.
it was thrilling to see that the ethic was person centered based on who you were connecting with.
Uh-huh.
So it did not matter your own tradition. All that mattered
Correct.
was who was in front of you.
Hmm.
And you would simply listen so that from the outside, you could say, it seems like you might find yourself going in a specific direction. How does
Uh-huh.
that fit with you?
Uh-huh.
Because we on the outside can see what somebody is wrestling with very often faster than they can.
Faster than they can. Yes.
Right.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was fantastic to go ahead and be that agent of
Sure.
helping them connect
Yep.
where they were finding a light in the darkness, but maybe it's less a light in the darkness, but a highlight in the chaos.
Ooh, maybe. Yes. Yes. Um, and I really have always felt, and I still feel, that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. It's just the way it is. That's how the world works. And if you're open and receptive to something, even if it's something that you would rather hide in shadow, for instance, or you
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to wrestle with yourself, that somebody can bring it up to you in a very kind and loving way, so that it can help you facilitate your own growth. So that's
Certainly.
beautiful. Yeah, that's a beautiful. Yeah, I love it.
I think
Um,
spirit helps with that sometimes
uh-huh.
because
Yep.
I believe that paranormal experiences
Yes.
are brushes with the I refer to them as the brushes of angels' wings from the
Ooh, I love
divine,
that. Yeah. Yeah.
calling you forward to follow your spirit.
Beautiful.
There
Yeah.
is something, in spite of the way people are frightened or upset by hauntings,
Hmm.
if you are a resident that experiences one, I think that a caring spiritual director and counselor can find exactly why
Yeah.
you had to experience that.
Sure. Sure. Have you had anybody that has had an experience with, let's say, a negative spirit that perhaps took a little longer for you to get rid of when you're working with them?
I've had negative spirits that have been things that I had to get rid of, and quite
Right.
honestly, um, their negativity is oftentimes more so their own baggage, those spirits.
Resistance. Okay. I'm thinking
Right,
resistance. Yeah.
right.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah.
So if I can go really off road, let me first preface this by saying that I believe everyone needs grace and caring.
Hmm.
So that
Yes.
as a reader, if I had a murderer sit before me and want help,
Hmm.
I would help them find their path
I know you would.
to the
That's the
best
beauty of,
that they
yeah.
would be
Yeah.
open to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when I encountered a hostel, there have been two hostels that I've
Okay.
been invited to navigate.
Uh-huh.
One was, as I discovered in my work with him, he was actually a pedophile. And then the other was an occultist who suicided and had been a stalker in life and was a stalker in death.
Oh,
His
wow.
intent was to haunt his
Okay.
last
Yeah.
victims. So there was and the pedophile had a fascination with drawing other spirits to say, look at the fun we can get into with these people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Hmm.
I do not take a militant perspective.
Right.
I look at going Zen and
I love it.
inviting them to their next step.
There you go.
And
Yeah.
I take the fear away
Hmm.
of what they are concerned is awaiting them. I think the pedophile was the most interesting one. He had no comfort level with his parents, and his grandmother was my next trip trying that.
Hmm.
That softened him a little bit, but
Uh-huh.
it wasn't enough to get him to go.
Okay.
I brought his dog forward, and that did the trick.
Sure it did, because we
It
love our animals. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they are representatives of the unconditional love of the divine.
That's right. That's
So
right.
if you can go ahead and remind someone you were loved, you have a
Yes.
chance, and it'll work.
That's beautiful. That's just beautiful.
Yeah,
Because most of the time, I would think that some of these tortured souls might believe they weren't loved, or that that they're not worthy of anything better than what they're in, this sort of
right.
purgatory that they've put themselves in. But wow, that's
Yeah, I
beautiful.
did a lot of silent counseling between myself and the
Yep.
abuser. He was a
Uh-huh.
brilliant person,
Yeah.
quite
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
Both a dentist and a plastic surgeon and an artist.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And um,
Huh.
the mind needed to be honored
Yep.
and dealt with.
Yeah.
And you have to get
Yeah.
very honest and clear and
Sure.
heal.
Sure. Well,
You
thank
have
you
to,
for sharing that.
yeah,
Yeah. I do know that that is the type of person. I'm sure you've been into prisons and things and worked with people that have been incarcerated, and they have to feel as though you are talking to them, not at them. They have, and there's a trust that has to occur. And
sure,
no matter what their background is, you aren't judging what it is. You're judging. You're not even judging how they are right now. You're just bringing it all in and saying, "I'm here for you," and that there's not a lot of people that can do that, Rick.
right.
So, yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
I actually find myself drawing more people to me who have struggles that don't wish to get into difficulty in prison. I'm catching
Okay.
them while they
Yeah.
are still, they don't know how to grow.
Right.
That's why they're coming to me.
Yeah.
But they know they need to have a change.
Right.
And those folks, I am terrific at looking at a chart and uncovering the root of the cycle
Yeah.
that is entrenching them.
Oh, yeah. I agree. Oh my
It's
God.
all related to Saturn in one way or
Well,
another.
oh, I would believe that. I remember when I had a karmic astrologer tell me that pinpointed 1957 or 58 and said, "Your father left. Where did your father go?" And I'm like, "How did you know?" He went in the TB hospital. So he didn't leave the family for
But its presence,
but his presence was, and he stayed in there for like a year. That's how long it took, and I could see him from the ground, and I do remember that as a little girl, and thinking to and then when he got out, he was my buddy for the rest of my life. We just
mm-hmm,
did lots of things together, but the fact that she could see that trauma there, and also the trauma of another event that happened in my life when I was in my 30s, and I was about 35 at the time I had it done, and I went, "Oh my God," it just helped me so much. It was
yeah.
incredible. It really was. It was,
Yeah, especially once
okay.
you go ahead and find
Yeah.
the other things, like what are your strengths? What are your
Mhm.
potentials? What are you as a soul? What did you choose to try to grow?
Right.
One of the big troubles people have with breaking cycles, they use their big guns
Uh-huh.
that they've already got developed. But we
Right.
didn't come here to show off. We
No.
came here to learn new things.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So I find the things you're working on and say, yeah, this related thing is what you're
Mhm.
supposed to be working on. Like,
Right.
you've got your doctorate in this other stuff. You need to build up the support.
That's right. That's right. Um, so as a person who was just a C student in high school, didn't really care about studying. I just thought, and I went to college to have a good time. I was the president of the student body. Everything was all about that. And I probably ended up with about a 2.4 as a GPA at the end. And I always thought I was just never going to ever be any better than being a C student. And when I turned 43 or so, there was
Mhm.
a graduate program, and they said, we'll accept you conditionally, because that was a long time ago. You're a different person than you were when you were 20. And I just ate it all up, Rick. It was unbelievable. And I was an A student, and I couldn't even believe that I was. It was like, what's going on? Oh my God. The windshield wipers were moving away, all the other things. But then I felt like I had to keep going. Like I needed to know more and more and more and more. There was never enough. And the reason I did it was for credibility purposes,
Sure.
because I didn't feel like I'd be credible if I didn't have this degree. And now I realize it's just a piece of paper, and you can learn from anything, any type of learning.
Yeah.
It's
So, what I'm hearing is that between the ages of 30 8 and 42,
Uh-huh.
every human goes through what is called the Uranian opposition because it takes 84 years to
Okay.
orbit. And
Mm-hmm.
as it goes through that, it is striking its birth position in your chart, how you came in, and it is
Okay.
trying to awaken you to your authentic self. So, authenticity is what you were seeking, and you were really ready at
I
that
was.
point
Yeah.
to embrace your truest path.
Wow.
And that's the source of that. Yeah.
That's wonderful. I mean, I'm just a big advocate for people to never say you're too old to do anything. Anything that you want to do, you can do. It's just, and people say, "Oh, well, I'm in my 50s or 60s." I'll say, "So what? So what? Do what you want to do." You know?
Well, especially funny is you started with the 50s because a couple months ago I ran across something saying that the most powerful, productive times of a person's life are the
Uh-huh.
60s, 70s, and 80s
I agree. Oh God, I agree.
because
Yeah. Yeah.
they have so much accumulated wisdom from experience
Uh-huh. Yep.
and they aren't getting the forum to be heard. So if they can go ahead and churn it out, if they can interact with intergenerational socialization, big changes occur.
Sure. Sure. Wow. Well, I mean, I have to agree. I don't have a problem with my age. It's like, oh, this is so great. There are certain things I don't care for, of course, but it's like I wouldn't want to go back. People will say, what age would you want to be? I'm fine. I'm fine where I am. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Wow,
Yeah.
that's really awesome.
Every day is a treasure.
Every day is a treasure. That's for sure.
Mhm.
Wow. Um, let
Even
me
the
see.
dark ones.
Uh-huh. Even the
Without
dark.
downs, you don't know what up is.
That's right. Yep. He said
Uh,
60s, 70s, and 80s.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the 60s are kind of just getting started. They're maybe
Mhm.
like the third, and
Mhm.
then the 70s, I think, are first. They're the most powerful, and then the 80s are the second, and then
Oh,
yeah,
60s is the third? Okay. Oh,
yeah,
I have something to look forward to. Woohoo.
yeah, right,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
It gets
awesome.
better.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, it does, and I
Essentially,
think
you
it
just
does.
I
Yeah.
think it's third because you just start to begin to embrace it, and in 10 years, you get to realize, ooh, I can do more. You know?
Mhm. Mhm. Yep. Yep, you can do more. You went back to school at 39, so you had your Uranus, is it Uranus you said, or
Yes.
it was the Uranus conjunction? Okay.
Opposition.
Opposition, okay. And
Yeah.
and Book, you too. I know, Book was a social worker, till she retired, and so, she probably, didn't realize in high school that she could be this. I mean, I remember seeing the real smart people in high school and thinking to myself, "Ooh, I don't know. They're just I could never be as smart as they are." You know? And it's because we're limited. We really don't we have a somebody tell us. I remember this so well in 4th grade. My teacher said I had a mental block in math. That's what he told me, and my parents. And guess what I had my whole life? Because I believed him, you
Right.
know? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think too that there are so many broken things in our education system.
Yeah. Yeah.
They probably need to work on childhood development
Yes.
as people so
As
they can
people.
teach things like how to test well,
Right.
how to
Yes.
relax
Yeah.
and let things come to you. I
Definitely
was more
meditation.
of
Mhm.
a B, C student, unless you were talking foreign languages. That was my forte.
That was your forte. Well, and
Yeah,
we have a different, what is it, thing that
mix.
we didn't do C and B. We were probably A, but
Right,
mostly if you add them together,
exactly.
it's just a C. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
I'll tell you what, it struck me amazingly that this 4.0 student that I know was crushed at his SAT scores, and
Mhm.
mine weren't extraordinary in any way, shape, or form, but
Right.
it made me wonder, how did he do worse than I did?
Yeah. Test anxiety. So you really need to learn that too.
Right.
Yes.
Being
Yes.
at peace and just letting things flow
Uh-huh.
will certainly make every bit of difference with anyone approaching the demand. Parents,
Yeah.
teach your kids how to relax.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. And feed them some good information. Don't tell a kid they have a mental block in math, because that's going to last forever and ever. And you can't, there's always hope.
Well,
So,
I'm sure that that is also the product of a limited mind of the teacher,
at the
because
time too. Sure.
they do not understand how all
Mhm.
minds work.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Well, they don't. And this was in the 60s, of course.
Sure.
And we were doing ducking covers in the class. I mean, that's the mentality of that time period. And of course, girls
Well,
didn't go
now
to
they have
prom.
to be aware of active shooters.
Oh, well, that's true. That's very true. But but expecting that we were going to duck and cover under this little tiny flimsy desk and live through it was
Right.
kind of really ridiculous. Just like the same thing with the ducking with the shooter. You can't live through those things. There's nothing that puts those things in place. You can lock the door, but people can still come in if they
Sure.
have the wherewithal to do it. So I remember at the same time, people were building bomb shelters. My
Mhm.
neighbor had a bomb shelter full of all kinds of canned food. And, so there was a fear, and we didn't really see that on television, because they didn't talk about it on television either, on the news. But you did see Vietnam. You saw Vietnam right in the room always. So you were the heart-centered child, Karen, and now you're way ahead of the curve. I think most of us are
Oh,
ahead of
it
the curve.
makes so much difference.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does. It really does. Um,
Well, one of the key things in astrology is this maxim: know
mhm.
thyself.
Right? Right.
And
Mhm.
the other is character is destiny.
Yep.
If you
Yep.
can know who you are in your heart,
Yep.
you will have internal validation and you won't be concerned about what everybody else thinks.
Right.
How
Right.
many mental health disorders would be avoided just by
Oh,
helping children be heart centered?
that's right. Yeah. Yep. The other one is nothing in excess. That was over the at the Oracle at Delphi,
Yes.
in Greece. Yeah. So and like you, I loved mythology. I love Joseph Campbell. I love Follow Your Bliss. I love all those things. And I remember introducing mythology to some of my college literature students, and we found connections between the flood myth and all these different places. And the same thing with what was the other myth? There was another one. Anyway, it's just everywhere. All those things are everywhere, and we
Yeah.
just don't know where to look for them or
Going
see them.
beyond the following the bliss, some
Hmm.
of us have found incredible insight by following your curiosity.
Hmm. Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Sometimes I think bliss might be informed by early trauma.
True.
Curiosity, I think, is informed by the higher self.
There you go. There you go. Yep. There you go. Wow. Um, I think nurturing what people love to do when they're children, and then reflecting back and doing those things as we're older, even with our inner child, and we
Yeah.
can heal our own wounds if we work in that way, to bring that forward. That thing.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
I find people who have a Venus affliction
Mm-hmm.
and a predisposition to um, be borderline diabetic or fully diabetic, I
Uh-huh.
tell them you have to find ways to treat yourself sweetly
Right.
because
Yes.
your body
Yes.
is craving
Hmm.
kindness and
Hmm.
sweetness.
Sweetness.
It makes
Absolutely.
it lowers the stress.
It does. It does. I know that I have Louise Hay's book, who was, for me, I love her because she uses the words that I use. If somebody has a dream that they're having to get up and pee 100 times at night, I'm like, what are you pissed off about? Or if you have a,
Right.
if you have a urinary infection, what are
Right.
you pissed about,
Right.
And we have to be so careful with the words we use and
Right.
how we do that. But yeah, I think you're right. The other one was asthma is supposed to be, quote, smother love. And my son was always an asthmatic, and I always thought to myself, I wasn't one of those hovering mothers. I really didn't think so. But then I thought maybe it was a past life that he had that kind of interaction, and he didn't have anybody that gave him agency. For me, I
Right.
did, and he needed that. He really did. So yeah,
Agency is so powerfully important.
yeah, definitely. Yep, definitely is.
I tell stories about working with one of my kids with encouraging agency,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it started at the age of 3.
Yep. Wow. That's amazing. This is a riot. Yes, I've gone to a high school, many, and I see the kids, or who are these old people? But I also see the kids that um, were smart that didn't get involved in smart endeavors. Shall I say it that way? And there
Mm-hmm.
were a couple of them actually that overdosed. They weren't at the reunion, of course. They
Mm-hmm.
overdosed on heroin and things because they couldn't handle the pressure that I believe that was put upon them at that time, at least. But
Yeah,
uh
and that's all under issues with Neptune. So those
huh.
people who get beyond the desire for escapism, what
Hmm.
they discover is the beauty of surrender to the divine.
Sure. Sure.
And when I say that, I'm not suggesting any one religion.
Right. No,
Find
I know.
your
Yep.
divine path
Yep.
uniquely for you,
For you. Yep. Yep.
because it will. I'm not suggesting you start another religion.
No.
I'm
But
saying, do you?
yeah, do
You know?
you? And that's I kind of think of myself as a spiritual mutt. I like some things from Buddhism. I like some things from Native American. I love, and I'm comfortable with what it is that I've, you know, figured out for me. And whatever works for you. Absolutely. I love that. I love that. You want to tackle this for Amanda? Explain to
Yes,
her.
I just happened to look at it.
Good.
Um, Agency is the key to identity. Agency is the power of the will and being able to choose. So it is a throat chakra thing
Hmm.
because the will is embodied by the voice,
Hmm.
and it enables you to say, I am.
Right.
I am
Yep.
me.
Hmm.
And I am not the idea you have of me that you project onto me.
Correct.
I am who I determine myself to be.
Uh-huh.
For this reason, I believe the entire planet owes the LGBTQ plus community an incredible debt of gratitude for bringing
Absolutely.
the issues of identity to light.
Yep. Yep. That's
It's
right.
because it is helping everyone find their authenticity
Correct.
at an earlier age.
At an earlier age. It's interesting you said there's a wonderful show. It's on Hulu, I believe, and but it's actually on Freeform, and they put it on Hulu, and it's with Wayne Brady. If
Okay.
you if you get a chance to watch it, it's called it's The Family Redo or something like that, Redux. And it's about him coming out as pansexual, and he's in his
Mm-hmm.
50s, and he's wrestling, and yet it's a beautiful unfolding of who he is and why he is who he is, and that sort of thing. It goes right along with what it is that you have mentioned. So uh, very
Yeah, it
fascinating.
seems weird, but I was raised Catholic
Hmm.
and moved forward into Baptist, but I always maintained privately my
Yeah,
metaphysical
yeah,
overarching and support for my
right,
being.
right. Yep,
And that makes all the difference.
sure. Makes a lot of
And I
difference.
kept it private
Uh-huh.
because it wasn't anybody's business. It was between me and the divine.
True.
So
Yeah.
as a child, it kept me safe.
Sure it did. Sure it did.
Mhm.
It's like right now, I remember when I was growing up, you didn't talk about who you were going to vote for, let's say. And
Religion,
now,
sex, and politics were
right,
taboo.
those things you did not talk about. That's absolutely right.
Mhm.
And there were rules around all of them, of course,
Mhm.
which I'm glad there aren't anymore, really. But for me, I couldn't have dated you, Rick, because you were Catholic and I was Protestant. And because my mother had this thing where if you get married, then you have to convert to Catholicism. And that's, that's awful, you know.
Oh, and that's what back in the 40s and 50s was referred. They analyzed it in the 60s. They were calling them mixed marriages.
Right.
Catholic
Absolutely.
and another tradition would be, oh,
Would be a
Jewish.
mixed marriage.
Oh my,
Yeah, I know. I know. And my friend actually in the 70s, I think it was 78, she got married to her husband. They've been married all these years. She was very Catholic and he was very Jewish. And so they had a wedding with both officiants there and they did the Mazel Tov and everything, but they also did the Catholic tradition. But everybody was mortified at that whole
I've
at the time.
taken great pride in being able to facilitate weddings where both of the wedding partners,
Mhm.
the marriage partners, differ from their parents,
Uh-huh.
and we
Sure.
would honor, and they differed with each other,
Right.
you know.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we would
Yeah.
find ways to honor them, and also I would help them find ways to honor their families and bring them forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I am not a recovering Catholic, just to be careful.
Some people here are.
I
So yeah, yeah.
I actually only took my first communion, and then I told the priest, I know that I'm never going to remain Catholic for all of my life, and I won't dishonor my word or the
Okay.
church
Oh, wow.
by by going through willy nilly. I will
Mhm.
never run from the Catholic Church. I will walk when it is my time.
Oh, okay. Look, you know that you were very enlightened from a very young age. I mean, obviously, if you were
I
less than
actually
3,
have
well,
a
yeah.
friend who's a retired therapist,
Uh-huh.
and one of the things that was curious to me was the way that I worked through um, dealing with anger and swearing.
Uh-huh.
And I said, honestly, I'm just finding this very curious. And when I told him my process, he was like, you were really ahead of the curve. There's a lot of things that violate the expectation of regular child development. Did not fit any molds.
No, right.
I had my
Right.
first past life memory at 4 years old,
Oh my goodness. Wow.
you know,
That's awesome. Yeah.
and it
That's
wasn't the last.
Oh, I'm sure it wasn't. Yeah. And that's the age when what is it between 2 and 4, I believe, is when it all can come up. Remember Martha in on Zad's? If you remember Martha, she's a was a is a teacher in Arizona Community College. Anyway, she told me this story when I met her, and it just
Do you
blew my
remember
mind.
more of her name?
Martha, she got married. It was something else, but if she got married, it's Benert now or Binert or something, but it was a different
Okay.
name.
Oh,
But she was
maybe.
telling me about her son, Michael, who was in his car seat in the back seat. And he was looking at his arms and his hands. And he was just a little boy, he's about 2. And Martha said, "What's going on, Michael? What's going on?" He said, "Well, I was a different color last time." And I thought, out of the mouth of babes, they're just telling
Right.
you what they know. It's fabulous. It's
My
fabulous.
sister had her first past life memory when we were in the car with our godmother,
Uh-huh.
and she was looking up at the sky from the back seat at the
Mhm.
sun, and she said, "The sun is a big ball of fire. My mummy and daddy died in a fire."
Oh, wow. Wow.
And it was quite the funny experience.
Yeah. Yeah. That is, and there is a show on actually, The Ghost in My Child, I believe. I don't know if you've ever heard
I've
of it.
only caught YouTube videos of it, but I
Yeah.
do pay attention to it.
Yeah, it's a lot of really young kids. One kid remembered being a fighter pilot and dying during World War II. Some kid actually remembered being involved in 9/11. He was in one of the towers.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
seen that. I
yeah,
had that locked away in one of my things
yeah.
to watch later.
Later, yeah, it's amazing though. The kid really, I guess he ended up meeting a few of them. Have met people that are alive that
Sure.
that they
They
know
knew.
things they knew. Yeah, it's amazing. It's just amazing. Anyway, well,
I
but we
actually did
need.
a paranormal investigation in a location where spirits knew me from a previous life. And
Wow.
I was so flabbergasted. It's the segue for a story for another time, though, because
Sure.
we're running
Yeah,
out.
we're running out of. Yeah, there's a lot of people. Diana remembers an awful lot. Oil painter, the lady that she's the astrologer as well, and
Okay,
We have Celtic seer here as well, who is a wonderful astrologer. We have a lot of them in the community, but she's remembered being in Auschwitz and when she was a child. But she also was going to be a cloistered nun at one point, and she's still locked in faith, just not religion. So yeah,
sure.
whatever works for you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's fabulous. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there are some past lives that really do haunt. We just had one lady on the Dream Show, and she was telling us some things, some visions that she had seen and dreams that she had had, and unlocked a lot of memories for her. And she's dealing with it still. And
Did you
but
say that was on the Dream Show?
yeah, on the Dream Show that we
That's
have.
very helpful because honestly,
Hmm.
working with mental health, I had a therapist or a psychiatrist that I was really respectful of, and when she was preparing to leave the area and move, um,
Uh-huh.
I took the opportunity to introduce her to one of Raymond Moody Jr.'s books on
Uh-huh.
that was Life After Life,
Yes. Hmm.
and how people's stories of their past lives can be treated as a dream
Hmm.
and then worked with as revelatory for what they have gone through and experienced. And
Absolutely.
which,
Mhm.
for anybody who's done the work of dealing with your past life, you do find that the memory comes at a time when something is triggering, whether you see it right away or not. It
Right.
has taken me some years sometimes to see what the significance was, but
Right.
it does make a shift.
It does. It is a trigger. And one of the lady came into the Dream Show, and when she was in the Dream Show, she said she was remembering something that she had dreamed about, or a vision that she had had, because we do visions and
Mm-hmm.
appearances as well. And then she said, "Oh my God, I've never asked or said anything about this before." And it was about a plane that was, I think it was yellow or white with a red, I don't know. Anyway, then she said, "Oh, this is really bothering me, and I feel like I need, and she had this issue or that issue with it. And it was so healing. And the next time she came in, she had a dream, and it was about another thing that had been triggering her. And so it's fabulous that you can work through those things with a group that can help you understand them and not be left alone somewhere wondering why the hell you're afraid of this or you're afraid of that.
Right.
So yeah, I agree with you.
I
Yeah.
just now realized for the first time the significance of the timing of my memory of my death in the Alps. It, it came to me as I opened the freezer door with my right hand, and the cold came and hit me, which it would not have bothered me because I'm always warm, but it
Hmm.
was the shock of difference.
Yes.
It triggered the memory of being a healer, an herbal healer in Switzerland, dying from an avalanche, and I had the death pain.
Oh, on
But
your head. Yeah.
right, but
Yeah.
I could see that even though I'm opening with my right, in memory of the reality, I had opened the door with my left and saw the rumbling and had
Yeah.
flashback of memories of herbs and discussions
Yeah.
of avalanches in the news,
Oh my God.
the
Yeah.
connection to Charles and Diana, because at the time that they were young on a skiing trip, they had been called back to England to cut short their visit. And while they were in England, after having left their friends actually died in an avalanche.
I think I remember that. I do.
And I
Yes.
remember at the time feeling, that feels so important, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
There are
Yeah.
many things I've
Things like
been
that.
seeing
Yeah.
before
Wow.
they are important,
Uh-huh.
and I just make a note.
It's so interesting because one of the lifetimes, my brother and I back in Virginia, we went back to Virginia Beach, and we wanted to be regressed together. And we asked the woman, "Can you regress us together? We want to see lifetimes we had," because we knew we'd been together an awful lot.
Was that
And
through the ARE?
yes, yeah, we got it through
I
the
will
air.
say, honestly,
Uh-huh. You're
I
amazing.
cut
Yeah.
teeth on Edgar Casey.
Me too. So, and my brother's 13 years older than I am, or was. He's passed now, but we looked alike in our baby pictures. We looked like we were twins 13 years apart, you know. And so we go to this place, and the first one we have, the lady said, sure, she'd do with the both of us, was on the Alps. And there was a wagon, and we were there together. And next thing you know, my brother's gone, and I don't know where he's gone to. And the wagon started to roll over him, and he went off the Alp and with the wagon. And he could, he was watching that happening while I'm standing there going, where are you? Oh my God. And I went to Switzerland and back when I was in my 30s, and I was standing on the top of Mount Pilatus near Zermatt, not Zermatt, near Lake Lucerne. And I
Oh,
had
yes.
my very first and probably most extensive spiritual experience standing there. The Swiss army went over my head with their planes, and I had this sense of oneness with the universe. But that was way before I had the reading on the Alps. But I
Right.
knew that I had lived there before. So, and then you said it.
Did the
So that's
scent,
probably how we knew each other.
did you find yourself experiencing the scent when you were there to be overwhelmingly powerful with the plants and the flowers? Because
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
started, I could smell the flowers that you
Sure.
were speaking of,
Yep.
or of the area.
Of the area.
Yeah.
Yeah, the breeze, and everybody's walking. There's people walking, and they stop and they eat their food, they in their backpacks, and everybody's so fit over there as well. But yeah, it was like a total oneness with the universe, which I've never had experience quite like that ever again, yet anyway. So
I actually did find the asteroid for the Alps, and it happens to be right on my Chiron for all the astrological.
Oh, and that's your wounded healer. Oh my goodness.
Which
Wow.
I have a bucket pattern to Saturn that is conjoined the Chiron. So,
Wow.
it's no surprise that I resonate with healer, and my first entry consciously was herbs and nutrition.
Right. And nutrition. Wow. Yeah, I know that it can tell you everything that you need to know about yourself and things you don't even know about yourself yet. So
Right.
that's fabulous. That's
Yeah,
fabulous.
I love finding that, helping people uncover that stuff, because it blows them away.
It does. It does. Yeah.
Just stunning.
It is stunning. Yeah. I remember my brother, the other experience that he had, I'll never forget it, because I don't know what I was doing, but he was buried alive in a coffin.
Okay.
And he started really panicking because, of course, he's dead. He's not dead. He can't get out.
Right.
And she had to really carefully get him out of that, she says,
Sure.
You're just watching it. This is over with, and that sort of thing. But, that would be a cause for someone having claustrophobia in their lives,
Right.
or other issues that they may have.
And apparently he didn't have a bell to be saved by the bell.
Didn't have a bell to be saved, but no. Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's where that comes from.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. Oh, so you've got a really bad fire there in California? It's close to you, but far enough away. All right, Karen. Well, sending you lots and lots of hope that this wind will shift and move in a different direction, and the water starts to work.
Somebody's asked a question. When you're
This
ready,
one?
I'll go ahead and take it.
Is it
That's
this
the
one?
one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
So a bucket has one planet on one half of the chart, and it does not have to be guided by any specific axis. It just shows you that the other planets are in one half of the chart.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's tighter, it's referred to as a fan. And the bucket handle would then be the fan handle. But all of the experiences of the planets, wait, let me rephrase that. All the emotions and processes that we go to as we enter through an experience run through first those other planets. And then finally, we take it and we process it through the bucket handle.
Oh.
So for me, with Saturn conjoined Chiron, I look at what do these experiences tell me about karma for Saturn, and how does it show me the path to healing with Chiron?
Yeah. So much to know. Unbelievable. Yeah. You've been doing this though for 47 years, right? Didn't you say 77?
Right.
Yeah, since 77. Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing.
And I'm a guest on Rick DiClementi's podcast. He's another Pittsburgh astrologer by the name of Rick.
Okay.
And he started the same year. It's a joy to work with somebody who has the similar capacity. We are different, and we spark one another on, and we find our own original thoughts that we never would have had we not had the intelligent conversation.
Sure. Those things can spark
prompting our own
new
mind.
insights and epiphanies. That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Wow.
Synchronicity.
Right.
Powerful stuff.
Very, very much. Yep. Oh, well, that's good, Craig. I'm glad that you got your reading with Sun Psychic Jean. She's wonderful. I know that you had read for him on the Psychic Democracy show, and he was telling me that you had read for him on there.
Oh, okay.
But
who
like
is that I read for?
Craig Dixon. Yeah. Craig
okay.
Dixon. Yeah. And of course, we were talking in the very beginning, and we said, well, we don't remember all the readings we do. So, yeah. Yep. And
really
and Diana works with another great gal, Valerie, and they bounce off each other as well. And they bring a lot of wonderful astrology tips and tricks, to us all. So
I've had the pleasure of working with Psychic Sisters, and they are so entwined with reading. They work with missing persons cases, and their souls they are working with are usually murder victims. But the way they finish one another's sentences, you can tell they were raised together.
Oh yeah. Well, they're twins anyway, though, aren't they?
Or, no, they're not.
They're not. Okay.
No, not this set.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we're gonna wrap it up here for today. But I want you to know that we would like to continue doing this kind of thing together. And Rick has said we're going to try to work it out. We'll do it maybe every couple of weeks if we can. I've known Rick since 2007. Yeah. That's when I started doing my Zods stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah. But
we're closing in on 20 years in a few years.
I know. Oh, please. But we're still young.
Yes. We still have a lot of life.
That's right. And you've given us all inspiration, saying that we have something to look forward to as we go into our next 70s and 80s.
Right.
So
It's
nice.
that's something that's important to me, to always help people to realize you're here for a vital reason.
Absolutely. We all are. We
As
are.
long as you're not gone,
Yeah,
you have a voice to share
you do.
and a light to shine.
Absolutely. How beautiful. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for bringing in your questions and your comments. I didn't read all of them, but I read them on the screen. And much love to all of you. And thank you so much, Reverend Rick. And we'll
Absolutely.
see you again soon. There you go.
And
So,
I also want to thank your audience, because they
oh, yeah.
really made it vibrant. I
That's what,
appreciate
yeah,
the
they're
opportunity
wonderful.
to
Like,
interact.
yeah, they're wonderful like that. So thank
Yeah,
you. Don't you go anywhere. You stay right there for now. All
will
right.
do.
We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.